Welcome to Creative Cooking. Today we're making butter bean salad loaded with bacon and cheese. Oh my god. This recipe uses canned butter beans, so it's quick and easy. You'll want to start by rinsing them in cold water before adding to the bowl. And the ingredients are really simple. We have 2 green onions, here of which we will use both the white and the green parts. And we have some red onion that we want to slice nice and thin. You'll notice I'm not measuring anything here. That's one of the nice things about salads. You can put as much of any ingredient as you want. And don't forget the bacon. We have 6 strips of center cut bacon, cooked until chewy, not crisp. And what I have here is some cheddar cheese. It's a sharp cheddar, probably about 2.5 ounces. And I'm cutting that into little cubes, or little bite-sized pieces. You can try shredding it, cutting it into actual cubes. I decided to do it this way. This is a nice chunky salad, including the beans themselves. You'll see. And of course we need a larger bowl to actually mix it. Okay, it's one of the mistakes you always make. You always use the bowl too small. And we'll give it a quick mix, and that's just to check the ratio, because we'll be seasoning this very shortly with some, some bacon fat. Oh boy, bacon fat. That's right, about a teaspoon of bacon fat reserved from cooking. And we're also going to add some olive oil. You can use salad oil, but I prefer olive oil. Just impartial to that stuff. And a little bit of honey. The honey's there just to sweeten the deal a little bit. Could have been brown sugar. And some black pepper. Always black pepper. And of course, kosher salt. And you'll notice that I'm not over seasoning because I want to adjust the seasonings after I've given it its initial mix. And of course here we have some red pepper flake. That was an afterthought, but I just wanted to heat things up a bit. And I'm using rice vinegar. You could use apple cider, but I prefer the rice vinegar because it has a very mild flavor, and I really want the flavor of the bacon and the onions and the cheese to come out. So that again is a personal choice, what type of vinegar you use. You could even use lemon juice. And don't forget to check out the green bean fritters recipe that came before this. In fact, if you watch this video to the end, there's like a little preview section at the very, very tail end. And as promised, we need to adjust the seasoning with a little more vinegar and a little more salt, and then give it a final mix. Look at the beautiful colors in there. You see that? Some red and some green. And when you're done, put it in a serving bowl, and you'll want to refrigerate this for a little while. You can eat it right away, but it's best to just put it in the fridge, let those flavors combine a little bit. The onions will soften, but that usually happens with onions and celery anyway. So there you go. There you go. It's a beautiful recipe. You can bring this to any party, any picnic, and I guarantee you it will disappear. So don't forget to subscribe for more great videos made for people who like to cook. Until then, bon appetit. Welcome to Creative Cooking. Today we're going to make Couscous Garbanzo. So let's get started. And what we have here are some basic ingredients. 4 cloves of garlic, a special spice blend, and that is in the description below. A can of chickpeas that's been rinsed and drained, some olive oil. We also have some chicken broth and some couscous. The couscous is the Moroccan style, which is a much finer grain. And one note about the broth is that you can use vegetable broth if you want to make this vegan. We also have fresh parsley from my garden. Look at the size of those leaves, huh? Isn't that great? Oh yeah, nothing like fresh. We also have pinoli, but we're not going to put those in right away. We're going to toast those garbanzo beans in olive oil with those spices, and then we'll throw in the pinolis later. So we'll start off with a hot non-stick pan and about 1 tablespoon, maybe a bit more, of olive oil. And we'll toss them right into the pan. We'll start to heat them up. And the goal here is not to cook them since they're already cooked. We're just going to toast them. We want to heat them up, dry them out a little bit, and toast them along with those spices. Because as well, you know, when you toast spices, you bring out the flavor. So it's a dual purpose thing, and it's much better than just throwing them into the recipe without this preparation. So just keep tossing them around until they're nice and hot and just slightly crispy, toasty on the outside. And that's it. And that's all the preparation you have to do for that. And now I'll toss in some of those pinoli nuts, about maybe 2 or just under 2 tablespoons. But if I was doing this without the garbanzo beans, I would have used the entire jar. I'll just give them another toss, and really all you want to do is toast them a little bit and just set that aside, and we'll get ready to make the couscous. For the couscous, we will start off with 2 tablespoons of olive oil. You know, you could do this with butter as well, but the rule is 1 tablespoon of lipid or fat per cup of couscous. We're using 2 cups. Add the garlic to the pan, and you're going to cook that for about 15 to 20 seconds, no more than that, because if you cook it longer, you might burn it, and if you burn it, it'll be bitter. So after about 20 seconds, go ahead and add your broth. It can be chicken broth, or it can be vegetable broth, and that'll be determined by whether or not you want this to be a vegan dish. It'll go either way. After that, add in your couscous, give it a quick stir, and this will come right back to a boil in a matter of 10 seconds or so. And once that happens, all you have to do is turn off the heat, put the cover on, and let that sit undisturbed with the cover on for 5 minutes or more. And that's it. Add the hot couscous into a mixing bowl large enough to mix. And we're going to take our previously chopped fresh parsley and we'll mix it in now. And the reason you do it this way and not put the parsley in while you're cooking it is you just want to wilt the parsley. You don't want to cook it. It stays nice and green, but yet it takes the flavors out and wilts it. And then look at those beautiful garbanzos, toasted nice and brown with all that spice. You just mix that into the mix as well. Okay, so I had a couple of green onions in the fridge, and I went ahead and chopped those up on the diagonal as a garnish, and it does add some flavor, along with some of that reserved parsley, also as a garnish. We want to make it look a little pretty too, right? And here I have some olive oil. You're going to say, gee Dave, that's a lot of olive oil. Well, it's not. Most of the fat was absorbed by the couscous in the cooking process, and that's being added for flavor. And here I have some flaked, finely flaked red pepper as a garnish, but also to give you a little surprise heat, but not too much. And of course we'll top that off with one of those beautiful parsley leaves, and there you go. It's a beautiful thing. It's a very easy recipe, and it tastes good at any temperature without spoiling. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you join us next week for another great video made for people who like to cook. Until then, bon appetit. Welcome to Creative Cooking. Today we're making barbecued beans for meat lovers, and it's easy to do. Let's get right into it. First you need to use B&M Boston baked beans. Do not use anything else, I'll explain later, and some butter beans. Chop up half an onion. This is sweet Vidalia, and you want to chop that up into little chunks, not finely diced. And here we have smoked bacon. We won't be using all of those strips. I always cook a few extra just for me to nibble on while I'm cooking. And we have hot dogs. And if you can get natural casing hot dogs, you might want to try using those. Chop them up into little bites. We're making something here where everything needs to be able to fit on a spoon, just like soup, okay? Do the same thing with the bacon. Just chop that up into little bite-sized pieces. Bacon gives this dish some nice flavor and texture. And here we have 3/4 pound of lean hamburger. Season that with salt and pepper, maybe some garlic powder. I use Montreal steak. Then bring that over to the grill after you've formed a few patties. Cook them as if you were going to make cheeseburgers, and then bring them back into the kitchen. Break it up into little bite-sized pieces, just like everything else. Doing it this way really does make a difference. Now get a pan nice and hot and add in the reserved bacon fat from cooking the bacon. We're going to be using that to saute the onions and also to saute the other ingredients one last time. You only want to cook these until they just turn translucent, and then go ahead and add in the hot dogs. You want to cook those for a minute or so too, until you see a little bit of browning take place. That gives another layer of flavor. We're building layers here. So when they look like that, add the bacon in, give that a nice mix, and last but not least, add in those crumbled up hamburger. Give that a nice mix. And now you're ready to add the rest. Look at all that meat. You could eat it just the way it is. Just make a sandwich out of it, right? Alright, so we'll add the beans and see how nice dark brown they are. They're also very firm, and it's one of the reasons I use these, because they don't already have ketchup or brown sugar or anything added. We'll be adding that ourselves. And then we add a can of the butter beans. And you'll notice that they make a nice color contrast. You see what's going on there? Also, they have great texture. And here I'm adding some dark brown sugar, 1 tablespoon, and some pepper. And don't worry, I have all the ingredients listed in the comments section below. Then we'll add some ketchup. And here I'm using a tablespoon. I'm using like heaping tablespoons. We're going to initially put in about 4. That's probably more like 5 or 6 tablespoons, isn't it? I don't usually measure. I'm doing that more for your benefit. And then we're going to add some yellow mustard. You can use spicy brown. It's even better. And it wouldn't be complete without a few shakes of Worcestershire. Now it's time for the secret ingredient. Guess what? Cold butter. That's right. We've turned off the heat, and now we're going to melt 2 tablespoons of cold butter and allow it to melt and blend with that sauce that was created. That's the secret ingredient that makes it taste so good, and I'm glad I could share it with you today. Oh, and one more thing. This tastes great with bread and butter. Anyway, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to come back for more great videos made for people who like to cook. Until then, bon appetit. Welcome to Creative Cooking. I'm your host, David Santos, and today we're making a tuna salad unlike anything else you've ever had. So let's get started. What I have here is a 5.5 ounce can of black-eyed peas that have been rinsed and drained. It's interesting to note that these are actually beans from the cowpea family of beans, hence the name pea in the name. Oh well. And here we have 1/3 cup of red onion, 1/3 cup of diced celery, and of course this wouldn't be complete without some fresh parsley. I would normally use flat leaf parsley, but what I had was the curly one, and that's fine too. Add a few pinches of kosher salt, and then some red pepper flakes. These are the finely ground pepper flakes, and of course some freshly ground black pepper. I put pepper in everything, haven't you noticed? Alright, now as for the tuna, we have 2 cans of tuna packed in olive oil. I can't stress this enough. If you try to use the tuna that's packed in water, it just simply won't have the same flavor and it won't have the same texture. Not to mention the fact that you don't have to drain this because you're actually using oil as part of the dressing. So after we mix that all up, we'll want to adjust for seasoning. We can add a little bit of salt or pepper or both. And then we will dress it with extra virgin olive oil and some red wine vinegar. Just combine all the ingredients, taste again, and when it tastes right to you, put it in the refrigerator and we'll get ready to do the rest. And now it's time for me to shut up. For the remainder of this video, I'm going to turn up the volume on the music because I really like this guitarist. I think he does a great job. And let's face it, a video is exactly that. We want you to see how to do things. And we're going to plate some of this stuff up, so stick around, and I hope you enjoy the music. And there you have it. Don't forget to join us each week for more great videos made for people like you who like to cook. Until then, bon appetit!